For weeks, fans had been buzzing about it, Yaman's anniversary celebration. It wasn't just any date, it marked exactly 2 years since the actor had taken a bold step into a new chapter of his life, leaving behind Turkey's drama industry and embracing Italy as his new home. To many, it symbolized success, reinvention, and independence. But for those who knew the story behind the story, it was also the date when everything between him and Demet Özdemir quietly began to fall apart. The celebration itself was grand, candlelit tables, flashing cameras, a luxury terrace overlooking Rome, and an exclusive guest list filled with producers, actors, and fashion icons. Ken smiled for the cameras, dressed in a tailored black suit, his arm wrapped around a familiar face who wasn't Demet. Every flash captured a version of him that looked confident, proud, unstoppable. But under the surface, there was tension. Behind the scenes, his phone buzzed endlessly. Messages he ignored. Names he didn't want to see. One of them, inevitably, was hers. Demet Özdemir had stayed silent for a long time. She had mastered the art of appearing unaffected, smiling in interviews, laughing on set, living her own life. But this time was different. The night of Cannes' anniversary, something broke her calm. A photo began circulating online, Can and his new companion cutting the cake together, their hands touching, her eyes looking into his as the crowd clapped. Within minutes, that image went viral. Fans flooded Demet's posts with comments, tagging her name, asking how she felt. "Are you okay, Demet? He moved on? You should have been there." And for the first time in months, Demet's silence cracked. She posted something, short, but sharp. Just 5 words that made the internet explode: "Not everything that shines lasts." Within hours, hashtags like #CanYamanAnniversary, #DemetReacts, and #TurkishDramaUnfolds were trending across multiple countries. Italian tabloids speculated that Demet's message was a direct response to Cannes' celebration. Turkish outlets picked it up within minutes, calling it a digital earthquake. Meanwhile, Ken himself stayed quiet. But those close to him said he had seen Demet's post. He read it twice, maybe 3 times, and then turned off his phone. No words, no comment, just that look he gets when something cuts deeper than he expected. Because deep down, even with all the fame, success, and distance, some dates carry emotions you can't celebrate away. And this anniversary wasn't one he could truly forget. By the next morning, chaos had officially begun. Every entertainment portal from Rome to Istanbul was dissecting the same image, Can's hand brushing against another woman's as they cut the cake, her smile glowing under the lights. A perfect couple, some Italian magazines called them. But Turkish outlets took a different tone. Can celebrates love, while Demet watches in silence. Except now, she wasn't silent anymore. Demet's post, those 5 simple words, had turned into a storm. Fans began reposting it with fire emojis, heartbreak icons, and countless theories. Some said she still loved him. Others claimed she had finally moved on, and this was her way of closing a chapter. But the truth, as always, was more complicated. Demet wasn't trying to start drama. She just couldn't hold it in anymore. Seeing that image, that moment, it hit her in a place she had kept locked for too long. Inside Can's inner circle, things were tense. His manager called early, warning him that social media was exploding with crossfire. His Italian PR team advised him to ignore it, to keep smiling and continue with his schedule. But his mother, Goldem, wasn't so calm. According to one insider, she called him that morning with a serious tone. "Can, this isn't good. You know how people talk. They'll twist everything." Ken sighed, pacing through his Roman apartment. "It's just a photo, Mom," he said, trying to sound indifferent. But he wasn't. He had seen Demet's post. He knew exactly what it meant. She had always been poetic when hurt. Later that day, Ken was spotted leaving his building, wearing sunglasses, avoiding reporters. Cameras still caught him muttering something under his breath, "Enough of this circus." Meanwhile, Demet was in Istanbul, heading to a studio shoot, pretending everything was fine. but witnesses said she looked distracted. Her co-star even told a journalist she was quiet all day. Not her usual self. And then came the interviews. A reporter asked Demet directly about her cryptic post. She smiled politely but didn't deny it. "I believe everyone deserves to be happy," she said carefully, "but sometimes happiness comes with lessons." That single sentence was enough to spark new headlines. Demet's hidden message to Can: "The wound still open?" Behind the scenes, Demet's friends tried to convince her to stay off social media for a few days. "Don't feed the story," they said. But it was already too late. The internet had chosen its narrative, a broken love story rekindled by one photo, one post, one memory that refused to fade. As night fell again in Rome, Can opened his balcony door, looking out over the city lights. For a moment, the cheers from the previous night felt distant, hollow. He scrolled through his phone, saw the photo again, and this time noticed something: the look in his own eyes. He wasn't smiling as much as he thought he had been. Something about the night didn't sit right with him. Maybe it wasn't the celebration that had gone wrong. Maybe it was the meaning behind it, celebrating success while knowing the most real thing he'd ever had was no longer by his side. By the third day, the situation had spiraled far beyond control. What had started as an elegant anniversary celebration had now become a full-blown media storm across two countries. Italian gossip magazines were running headlines like "Can Yaman's new flame, the woman behind his smile," while Turkish tabloids fired back with "Demet's heartbreak resurfaces, the post that shook Can's world." The narrative had split into two camps: those who believed Can had finally moved on, and those convinced that the celebration was a cover, an attempt to bury feelings that never truly died. And then, one voice changed everything. A close friend of Demet, who had remained silent for years, finally spoke to a local reporter off the record. "Demet saw that photo," she said, "and it hurt her. Not because she's jealous, but because that date meant something to both of them. It wasn't just an anniversary for Can. It was the day they promised to always be honest with each other." That single quote spread like wildfire. Suddenly, every media outlet was speculating: was Can celebrating a professional milestone, or trying to erase an emotional one? Meanwhile, Can's manager tried to control the chaos with a brief statement: "Mr. Yaman's event was purely professional. There's no personal story behind it. We kindly ask the media to respect his private life." But the statement backfired. Fans weren't convinced. The hashtags #CanYamanAnniversary, #DemetandCan, and #StillConnected climbed back into trending lists. Memes, fan edits, and comparisons of their old photos with the new event flooded TikTok and Instagram. In Istanbul, Demet's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Friends, journalists, even international magazines wanted her side of the story. But she refused interviews. Instead, she poured herself into work, long shooting hours, constant rehearsals, anything to keep her mind busy. But even her colleagues could tell something was off. She laughed, but her eyes didn't, one crew member later told Hello, Turkey. One night, after wrapping up filming, Demet reportedly went to the seaside near Arnavutköy, a quiet place where she used to walk with Can during their Erkenci days. Locals said they saw her sitting by the water, hood pulled over her head, just staring at the waves. Someone approached her, recognizing her, and asked if she was okay. She smiled softly and said, "I'm just remembering something that used to make me happy." Across the sea in Rome, Can sat in his dimly lit apartment, scrolling through his phone again. He came across that same viral clip, Demet's quote, her image by the water. He stopped, froze for a moment, and whispered something in Turkish, almost inaudible: "Benimde." "Me too." That was the first crack in his armor, the moment fans realized this wasn't just about publicity or gossip. Something deeper was being stirred again, something neither of them could control. By the fourth day, it was no longer just gossip, it was an emotional war carried out through screens, headlines, and whispers. Everyone had an opinion, every post was dissected. Even those who had never followed their story before were now drawn into the whirlwind of speculation. But behind the chaos, two people were quietly breaking in their own worlds. In Rome, Ken had cancelled all his public appearances. The photos of him smiling at his anniversary now felt like memories from another lifetime. His PR team urged him to stay quiet, but he couldn't. That silence, the same kind he once used to protect himself, now felt suffocating. Late one night, he opened his notes app and began to write. Not a public statement. Not a reply. Just words he needed to let out. Sometimes success feels heavy. Sometimes the past feels closer than the future. I didn't plan to hurt anyone. I just tried to move forward. But maybe, some parts of me never did. He never posted it. He just stared at the words, then locked his phone again. Meanwhile, in Istanbul, Demet was facing her own storm. Producers had warned her to avoid emotional interviews, but reporters still waited outside the studio gates. When one of them shouted, "Do you regret your post?" she stopped for the first time. Her team tried to pull her away, but she turned around, took a deep breath, and said calmly, "I don't regret feelings. They remind us we once lived something real." That sentence alone silenced the noise for a moment. Because in a world of rumors and facades, it sounded raw, human, and undeniably true. The internet erupted again, but this time the tone was different. Instead of mockery or blame, people began posting nostalgic clips of her Kenzie cuss, slow-motion edits of their old scenes, and comments like they were magic together. You can't fake that kind of connection. Days passed, then a week. The chaos slowly began to fade, but something unexpected happened. On a quiet Sunday morning, Italian paparazzi caught Ken walking through Trastevere, alone, wearing casual clothes, no bodyguards. He stopped by a street artist selling sketches, and one of the photos showed him buying a small painting of two silhouettes standing by the sea. Some fans swore it looked like that photo, him and Demet from years ago, holding hands on a Turkish beach at sunset. He didn't comment. He didn't need to. But that image, too, went viral. And for many, it was enough. Because maybe, after everything, the fame, the distance, the misunderstandings, neither of them had truly closed that chapter. Maybe it wasn't anger that linked them anymore, but the kind of quiet ache that never really leaves. That night, Demet posted one last thing on her Instagram story. Just a short clip of the ocean waves, with a caption in Italian this time, "Alcuni amori non finiscono, cambiano forma." Some loves don't end, they just change shape. No one tagged anyone. No names, no explanations. But the world understood. Because deep down, everyone knew, behind the cameras, beyond the gossip. This story was never just about fame. It was about two souls who met at the wrong time, loved too deeply, and are still learning how to live with the echo of what they once were. And as the lights of Rome faded into the horizon, and Istanbul's night reflected on the Bosphorus, both of them, in their separate worlds, looked up at the same sky. Different cities. Same stars. Same memory.